All right, good. All right, so we listening 4 audio files, 10 questions each per audio file, and 40 questions in all. And the total time you're going to be spending in your listening is 30 minutes, and the breakdown is 20 minutes for active interaction with the question and audio, then 10 minutes to transfer your work to your answer sheet. Now, what they will give you question paper, they give you answer sheet, question paper, answer sheet, and question paper and answer sheet. So all the while you're interacting with the question, they're expecting that you write in your work, in your question paper, write your answers in your question paper for the duration of 20 minutes and for all the 40 questions, write in your question paper. Then after you would have done that, they give you extra 10 minutes to transfer your work to your answer sheet. So that is how it is done. So you have extra 10 minutes to transfer your work to your answer sheet. Now, I was saying yesterday that your listening and your reading questions are meant to be written in capital letter. This particular instruction was one of the reasons why a student brought me in and paid the money for a whole month, but they did not end up doing a whole month's lecture. The reason is that being that the person did not know. The person in practice would go ahead and score 35, 37, 38, okay? And then when he gets into the examination hall, the person fails the exam and scores 6.5, and the person was expecting to have, nurse was expecting to have 7.0 at least in any of the bands. But for listening and reading, she was consistently getting 6.5, not because of anything, because there is a rule, the rule of punctuation comes to play. The reason is that if, for example, your answer number 1, look at where my cursor is. My cursor is on dialogue in this note now. Answer number 1 is supposed to be dialogue. And because dialogue is not a person's name, it's not a proper name. It's not the name of a person. It's not the name of an animal, a specific animal. Men, women are general names, okay? But proper name like Mr. Moses, M is capital letter. So a dog, dogs, D-O-G is general. So D-O-G, small d. But if I have Bruno as the name of a dog, Bruno B becomes the name, all right? So like that. So if I wrote dialogue like this, those people who were taught by some strict teachers like me in secondary school and primary school, they told you that your first letter of starting a sentence should be in capital letter. And you have the tendency of bringing that here and writing capital letter D instead of small letter d. This is not a sentence. Dialogue is the answer, but it is not a full sentence. So it should be small letter D because it's not a sentence and it's not starting the name, a proper name. So if you wrote capital letter D, IELTS will cancel it for you. So that's why some people have been failing. They will do well in their listening and reading while you are practicing, but they get into the examination and fail. This is the reason. So you're instead of now trying to think of, okay, which one is is supposed to be capitalized, that should have the initial capitalization, and which one shouldn't have initial capitalization, just write everything in block letter from number 1 to 40. That saves you that headache. I hope that is taken. All right. So you're listening. That is what your listening is. So in these 4 audio files, you could have monologue, which could be a speech or a lecture or a talk. You could have a dialogue, which is live conversation, which is usually academic or social economic in nature, or telephone conversation, which is mostly socio-economic. All right. So you can have dialogue, you could have monologue, all right, and like that. So in that you should have been done. Now let me also say this, that for every good student, I'm giving you some brand rules. For every good student, I'm expecting that your first 10 question and your last 10 question comes in handy, and it's very easy for you to score 10 over 10 in first 10 question and the last 10 question. So consider it as a rule that no students of mine should get first 10 questions by the time we get to do listening, that is. No student of mine should get first 10 questions wrong or last question 10 questions wrong. It is very, very important for you to pass all those, all right? So it is very, very important. So let's move on. Okay. Okay, so reading, 3 passages are going to be given. If you are doing, what's it called? Let's balance that. If you are doing general, okay, you are going to be given 4 passages. If you are doing academics, okay, if you are doing general, it could be either 3 or 4 passages. But if you are doing academic, it's strictly 3 passages. So if you are doing academic, you're a nurse, you're going to the UK, it's 3 passages. You are going to Canada, you want to write general, it's going to be either 3 or 4 passages. So that is that understood. Now, this question per passage, here you'd have 3, 4, 13, 14 question distribution for academics. This is peculiar to academics. Okay. So the question distribution in academics is 13, 13, 14, or in whichever way. It could be 13, 13, 13, 14, 13, or 14, 13, 13, or 13, 13, 14. But for general, they might decide to give you 5 questions attached to the first passage, 15 questions, 10 questions attached to the second passage. The distribution is not static, because of course we know it is either that they have is either they give you what's it called now? Is either they give you 3 passages or 4 passages. Please hold on. There's something I quickly need to do. Sorry, give me just 1 minute. All right. Sorry about that. For those, somebody is raising a concern that we did this yesterday. Yes, we did this yesterday, and I'm just trying to be a bit to carry quite a number of people along. This will be just this first time, and this will be the first and last time in this class that I will have to repeat something, except by way of revision. So please, just bear with those people who were not here yesterday. And if you say you want to log out and this, you will not know when we'll move on. So let's just bear with those people who are coming in today, or who were not part of this yesterday. So we'll try to cover up ground. So I'm trying to rush up that part, so that we can we'll be able to get more work done. So reading. So we said that so that's that for academic part. Then the academic reading is, you have this kind of text you're going to be given is standard university text from researches, journals, articles in any field, in whether nursing, in arts and humanities, in human medicine, in material science, any any aspect at all. Now, let me quickly say this, that once it is if you have spent 40 minutes, for those people who are coming in fresh, if you have spent 40 minutes, would have to go and would log out and join again. That's we are using free package on Zoom, so we'll join again. So you always join back, and I'm going to, as soon as I've gotten one person being added to the class, I'll continue, because the time is of huge essence. So standard is university text from researches, journal, articles in any field, and in general, you have essays, passages from socioeconomic needs, and probably one research oriented related texts or journal or article in any field. So we go to task 2, writing task 2, general task 1, because general and academic are different from each other in only reading, and general and task 1 in only reading and task 1. So writing has 2 writing tasks. So when I talk about the writing task 1, letter writing, which could be either formal, semi-formal, or informal letter. So if you're writing general, it could be letter writing. It's your task 1 is letter writing, and it could be either formal, semi-formal, or informal letter, which I'm sure we know the differences. Okay, and academic task 1 is data analysis, where you could have line graph, pie chart, histograph, or histogram, bar chart on table. And the ones highlighted in green, in yellow, can work with themselves. That means they could give you line graph plus pie chart plus histograph plus bar chart, table from with pie chart, table and line graph, any combination. They work together, they work hand in hand. But when we are talking about flow charts don't work hand in hand. They appear alone. Flow chart appear alone, map appear alone. At most, you get 2 maps or 2 flow charts. Maps appear alone, flow chart appear alone. They don't work with the others. So that's why we have that color demarcation between them. So writing task 1 is for 120 words, 150 words at least, 150 words at least, sorry, in 20 minutes. So they are expecting that you write 150 words in 20 minutes. Okay. Mrs. Busari, please mute your mic. Thank you. And task 2, for task 2, it's typically opinion essay. We have opinion essay, an opinion essay or argumentative essay. An opinion essay has about 7 varieties. 7 varieties, but we'll discuss those varieties by the time we go into opinion essay proper. So that's number 1, opinion essay. Number 2, discuss both views and give your opinion. That has 2 varieties. Number 3, problem and give solution. They ask you to discuss the reason why a problem exists, and they ask you to give solution. Then number 4, they ask you to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of an issue. And number 5, you have hybrid or multiple question essay. Recently, I learned a new word which I never knew existed. So they said there's such a thing called tribrid. So I'm going to bring that in here. Tribrid, so that means hybrid is 2 and tribrid is 3. So 3 elements. So what do we mean by this? That is 3 elements. Hybrid is 2 elements of questions. As far as I'm concerned, any elements from 4 upward back to 1. Any 2 elements coming together under 1 question, and tribrid B is any 3 elements of question coming under 1. Okay, I'm just trying to play around this. So this Word document does not understand English to that level yet. So let's go on. So, and task 2 is at least 250 words in 40 minutes. In 40 minutes, you should have written 250 words. All right. So at least, that is at least. Okay. Speaking, 3 tasks. You have 3 tasks, and you have to finish your speaking exam is going to be 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, you should have done those 3 tasks. So, and I said, if the examiner likes your flow or likes your drill or likes your face, it might hold you a little longer than that. But 15 minutes is the typical time for your speaking. So introduction, a little longer, should not be more than 16, 17 minutes. So don't be scared. So Number one, you have introduction stroke interview. That's personal question. Number two, individual long-term. That is there. They give you a card. They give you a question to describe somebody, something, somewhere, some occurrences in the past. Okay, so you'll be expected to describe any of those in that question. So then in the introduction stroke interview, they're going to be asking you about yourself, personal question. Then the interview section, they're going to be asking your opinion about some particular things. Then number three, you have follow-up question, two-way discussion, where the questions that are bordering on part two, on what you discuss in part two, would be asked. So that is your speaking exam breakdown. So quickly, let's move to the main crux of today's discussion. So, but before we go on, do we have any question? To raise up your hand. You have 30 seconds to raise your hand if you have any question for me to clarify before we move on. All right, so let's move on. Now, here we're going to be talking about vital signs. Yesterday we just took 5, but here today I'm expecting that we're going to be able to finish up all 21. So vital signs. Now, somebody told us yesterday, I think it was Mrs. Busari, that she said, was it her? Yes, that's vital signs are signs of life. Now, I stole that word. Please listen to me if you have not done your assignment. I stole that word from my students, who some of whom have turned to friends who are medical professionals. Vital sign is a medical word, is a medical expression. Somebody told me that you went online and was searching for vital signs. Well, if you go online and you're searching for vital signs, they're going to bring in all medical gibberish and garages for you. All right, this is not an English expression. It's not an expression in English grammar or anything. It is me adapting that into a topic in IELTS in order to help my students. That is why you have it here. So, but vital sign as an expression is an element of what's it called? Sorry. Okay, is an element of elements in the medical profession. Okay, now let's move on here from. So there are certain vital. So what are the vital signs as it comes to IELTS? There are certain information. There are certain elements that I'm expecting that you should understand their usage in order to understand, in order to pass IELTS very well. You go online, you would, if you check vital signs online, you're most likely going to see stuff that has to do with medical stuff. But here I've adapted them in. So, and hardly would you see an online teacher telling you about all of these things that I'm about to tell you, has been very important feature in your IELTS exam. Now, these are things that you must be able to use. You must be able to use them, and you must be able to identify them in your reading, because some of them are the reason why a lot of people fail IELTS. Because of course, stockpile of grammar. Some people don't have that stockpile of grammar. Some people don't understand some of these words, and they don't know how these things work. So when IELTS use it as abracadabra, so to speak, to them, then it becomes confusing, and then they go for the wrong answer. So you must be able to use them in your work, and you must be able to use them. You must be able to identify them when they are being used at you, in your listening and your reading. But in your writing and your speaking, you should be able to make use of them in your responses. So first one is cohesive device. So cohesive devices show relationship between words, sentences, and paragraphs. And there are several subcategories of cohesive devices, several subcategories. There are so many. And one of if we have just brought up a few, and this is where, and here we are going to be talking about adding information. You know, when you want to add information, and another information that goes in the direction of the first one or the earlier one that you have mentioned, you use any of those places, any of those words that are under the subcategory of add information. So in addition, additionally, moreover, furthermore, similarly. Contrast, when you have two opposing ideas from different areas, like talking about somebody being pretty, but then being light-fingered. Being pretty, being light-fingered. Somebody is being pretty, that's good, a positive. But being light-fingered is a negative expression. And being light-fingered is what we call in Yoruba, unfewo. You know, Yoruba people have a way of just masking meaning. All right. So if we say somebody is let me know, is light-fingered, that means the person, okay, the person picks things, all right, collect things that are not his own and turn them into, it's more or less like the person is stealing. So you is euphemistic expression for stealing when somebody is light-fingered. So, all right, so so how did you get there now? So you want to okay, contrast. Now you want to now put them together in the same sentence. You have to use contrast. Although she's pretty, she's light-fingered. She's pretty, however, she's light-fingered. So contrast, be bringing the other side of a particular item, the negative side of a positive side, or a positive side of a negative side. That is what you use here. All right. So emphasis, you want to put an intense tone to a particular occurrence. He beat my child. In fact, he knocked him on the head. That is putting an intense tone to a particular occurrence. So that's emphasis. And sequencing, you have maybe firstly, secondly, thirdly, and the rest of them like that. I think I brought in another one in between where that's cursor is, but I couldn't save it there. But there are several of them online, and you should be able to get them out and learn them in order to be able to use them in your IELTS. Now, be very careful to make sure that you have the understanding, huge understanding of some of these things. So have you understanding of some of these things, and you have a lot of them as substitutes, because you can't use one word twice in IELTS, or you are not expected to use one word twice, or at least use the same expression twice. So number two, vital sign, is subordinate clause. And sometimes subordinate clauses are formed with cohesive device, like we just saw earlier. If I'm too fast and you have not taken down your notes, please let me know so that I can stay for you. I can wait for you so that you can take down the notes. It's very, very important. Especially knowing the fact that I won't take excuses. All right, so let's move on. Subordinate clause are clauses which need other clauses to make sense. They need other clauses to make sense. They need other aspect of other kind of sentences or expression or construction to make sense. No subordinate clause can make sense independent of others. That's why subordinate clauses are otherwise known as independent clauses. All right. So, for example, the one in block letters, in bold letters, if you come home, cannot have a full stop at the end, because if has made it a subordinate clause. If you come home, I will take you to our office. If you come home, I'll take you to our office. So that is that. Then, so let's say subordinate clause. Sentence one is from a rich home. Sentence two, he lives like a pauper. All right. Sentence one is from a rich family. Sentence two, he lives like a pauper. So let's see. Bringing that into subordinate clause, we have us say, although he's from a rich family, he lives like a pauper. So the first part before the comma that has although, that is in bold letters, is the subordinate clause. IELTS will award you higher marks for writing subordinate clauses. All right. So despite being from a rich family, he lives like a pauper. Despite being from a rich family, he lives like a pauper. As much as it is very good that we have a stockpile of cohesive devices, we must understand the dynamics of each of them. Some cannot work like the others. Like despite cannot work exactly the same way that although works. That's why we are changing he is into being. All right, because they don't, despite the fact that they can be used interchangeably, the way they will have to work has to change. So that haven't understood that, we go to the next one. Please, I hope you are really taking notes. It is very, very important for you to take notes. All right. Can we move on? So moving on, I'm trying to, hold on, because I can see some people taking notes. If you did not, I'm expecting that your video should be enabled so that I can monitor you. This is a night class. It is a huge tendency that people just doze off. In fact, I'm not talking about one person dozing off. I'm talking about myself dozing off. It's possible that I just doze off. So if I doze off, just call my number, and that maybe by the time my phone rings, I'll just, it will juggle me out of my sleep. All right. Now, that is very, very important to get. All right. So let's move on. All right. So I see that some people were writing notes, so I just needed to do a little bit digression so that they can write. But if you are also writing notes, but I can monitor that from here, I have a tendency of moving on without anything. So let's go to the third one, relative clause. Relative clauses are clauses headed by words like who, whose, whom, where, when, that, and the compounds of these words like whatever and whomever. So these are words that start such sentences: who, whose, whom, where, when, and that. So any word, any sentence which is started with any of these, and their compounds like whatever, whomever, wherever, whenever, and the rest of them like that, is likely going to be a relative clause, as long as it doesn't have a what's it called now? Question mark at the end of it. Those ones that have question mark at the end of it are typically questions. They are not clauses. So you should try as much as possible to okay. I have a challenger. She says she can't do so. Me, I can do so. Okay. Miss Busari, you're challenging your teacher. No, voila. Let's go on. All right. Okay. So let's move on. So relative clauses. So now moving on. Example: Mr. Ajala does not like working with people who procrastinate a lot. The word "who procrastinate a lot" is relating back to people. Relating back to people. Mr. Ajala does not like working with people who procrastinate a lot. Procrastinate a lot. Who procrastinate a lot is referring back to people. So another example: I like going to places where I can listen to motivational speeches. So places where I can listen to motivational speeches is relating back to places. So you should be able to use this. And let me say that relative clauses are a kind of dependent clauses, because you can't say where I can listen to motivational speeches. Then if somebody said that to you, be like, what are you saying? So it needs extra items to be able to make sense. All right. So that, having said that, we also go to collocation. Collocation, words that go together. Adjectives, nouns, adverbs and verbs, nouns and nouns, verbs and preposition. There are so many verbs and preposition and nouns. There are so many of them. Okay. How come new example? Who is the first in this sentence? Let me see. Mr. Adela does not like working with people who procrastinate. People who procrastinate. I don't understand your question, Mrs. Busari. I would like you
Okay,
to.
sir. My question is, you said that all these relative clause like who, whose, whom, where, they used to start sentences. So me, I'm saying that the example you gave, who is it's in the middle, like you start with Mr. Ajala does not like working with people who, like it's in the middle of the sentence.
Okay,
It's
I
not,
get you. I get you now.
yeah.
Now, what if I said starting a sentence, then I probably must have it must have been a sleep. I said I meant to say that the clauses are headed. If you look at the sentence, you'd see that I said I headed by words like, not like they start the sentence. They are headed by. So when something heads is something, that's more like it's the most important word in that phrase, in that clause. So if it starts a sentence, you are most likely going to have a question in your hands, which means it may not be a relative clause. Who are you talking to? Is a sentence. It's not just a clause. It doesn't need any other item to make sense. I hope you understand. Whose pen are you holding? Does not need any other item for it to make sense. To whom